Specifically, I'm calling this segment communication in business. I think communication is not something that is talked about enough in business. Communication for me is important in two ways: the customer and the employees. I'm gonna focus on communication with customers because I think that's what marketing is. Because your ability to communicate with the customer is your ability to sell something to them. If they don't know about what you have, they don't know that you exist, there's no way for them to buy your thing or download your thing or follow you. If I pop up a business tomorrow and I have no audience, and let's talk about Instagram for 1 second because everyone knows it. If I have no followers, I have no ability to communicate. I have no ability to do marketing. I have no ability to then sell my product to someone. So communication is over everything. And I think that building up a communication channel that's strong is the key to being able to sell your product and grow your business. When I say communication channels that are strong, on Instagram, I'm talking about having not only followers, but followers that are seeing your things, like your content, you're talking to and engaging with constantly. I mean, do you have a text platform where you're literally communicating just like you do send a text message to your friend or family? How are you communicating with your customers over text? How are you communicating with your customers over email? How are you communicating with your customers in Facebook groups? How are you communicating with your customers all over the place? And that's exactly what I'm gonna do coming forward in the future, is break down each of these different communication channels and talk about how I think you should talk to them on those specific channels. But before I go into the specifics, I wanna talk about what you can do to actually communicate with them. And it's just talking and building a relationship. At the end of the day, I think the biggest problem when people are trying to do social media marketing is that they're trying to write an advertisement in their caption. They're trying to make a TV commercial with the piece of content that they're posting instead of actually just talking to your customers. Like, think of it more of as building a relationship with your customers. Like, would you communicate with a friend or a family member the way that you're writing that post? Would you communicate with them the way that you're writing that text? If you can build a relationship with your customers because you actually have a valuable product that they want to buy, that's when you have all the leverage. And so building up the different channels and actually talking to them and building a relationship is important. I'm talking a lot about talking and communicating to the customers. What's equally important as talking is distributing what you're talking about. You can't just make content, you have to distribute it. You could be talking and communicating and AKA quote unquote doing marketing better than anyone else. If you have no distribution of that content, if you have no followers, if you have no one on that email list, if you have no one on that text list, you have no way to communicate. So content is just as important as distribution. And for as much as I like to get caught on just making tons and tons of content, you have to make time to also distribute it. On the vice versa, I mean, a lot of people only focus on the distribution. They get lost in what kind of conversion they can have on Facebook or Google ads, or, following and unfollowing people for more followers on Instagram, or only doing giveaways on Instagram because they're only focused on distributing the content. Content is equally as important as distribution. Brings me into my next point of communicating with customers, which is depth over width. Like, only focusing on the distribution will lead you to focusing on more width over depth. Something that happened to me recently was I'm building up my YouTube channel and really trying to get an audience there. And someone who's investing in a particular thing that we're doing, one of our locations for Wetzel's Powered by Thirst. I meet this guy the other night, and literally we have like sub 10 views on some of these vlogs on YouTube and like less than 50 subscribers. But this guy comes up and he's like, oh, I follow everywhere. The podcast, the vlog, on Instagram, on the stories, everything. And it was depth over width. We're talking about someone who invested an insane amount of money. And I don't have a lot of followers on every platform, or really in comparison on any platform. But the depth of those followers are more important than the width of those followers. And I think you get that depth over width ratio by equally focusing on the content as you do the distribution. Communication equals relevance. Everything that we're trying to do as a business is about communicating with the customers. Imagine if your favorite brands, Chick-fil-A, even brands like Nike, were communicating in more modern day, relaxed, relationship type building ways with you as the consumer. Imagine if the owner of Chick-fil-A or managers of stores or people in the company were jumping on and literally talking to you on the Instagram stories, or you could submit a question, they would answer it, or you could message them and they would DM you back. I use Chick-fil-A as an example because it's a brand we all know, but combine modern day communication, combine communicating with customers the right way on social media with having a lot of wit and becoming and running a good business and growing, it can be an explosion. And so that's what I'm trying to do with my business. And what I want to do going forward is outline exactly first how we can bring value to the conversation when communicating with customers. How do you actually not write a TV commercial and actually just talk to them? Because a lot of people overthink it, and I think it's really important. So I'm going to be touching on that in a future episode. I'm also going to be touching on each of the different communication platforms and specifically how to hack Facebook groups, how to communicate on Facebook groups, how to grow your Instagram following, how to talk to people on Instagram without being spammy, how to make your interests align with the algorithm. How do you break through in an algorithm where there's a billion people on it? But specifics, text marketing, email marketing, Instagram stories, all of these different specific platforms. I want to talk about how I communicate on them with my business and how I think it's going to help you guys out a lot. This episode of Learning by Doing is a big wake-up call. Like, communication over everything. I'm getting slapped in the face, I feel like, every day with the operations of my business because of my lack of communication in different areas. It's so important, not only in marketing, but in the operations of my business. I'm learning that part every day, but I like to think one of my strengths is my communication with my customers, and that's what I'm leaning into to grow a massive business. So I want to share more and more about the specifics of how I communicate with my customers in future episodes. But no, wake up and understand that communication over everything. Communication is marketing, and it is your ability to actually talk to the customers and ultimately sell something. We'll catch you next time.